In 2023, more than 20 states will allow people to carry handguns without a permit. On January 1st, Alabama became the most recent state allowed to carry without a state permit gun legislation. Gun legislation progressed dramatically. 11 states passed permitless carry laws in the last 3 years. Gun control activists are pushing back on the least restrictive gun rights as they believe it will increase gun violence. Gun permit systems require applicants to demonstrate safe gun handling and knowledge of complicated gun laws. Adam Skaggs, Chief Law Center, a nonpartisan reform group, said this about the changes in gun laws. The opinion made clear that nothing in the Constitution requires permitless carry. Constitutional carry may sound good with its alliteration and the way it rolls off the tongue, but it's fundamentally untrue and misleading. Guns in public have always been significantly regulated. By the end of the year, states with permitless carry could be the majority. Joining us to break down what this means for Black America is Philip Smith, the president of the National African American Gun Association. Hello there, Mr. Smith.
Hello, hello. Glad to be here and honored to be on my Fraternity Brothers show.
All right, great to have you. So I guess the biggest question to you is, what does all of this mean for Black Americans? Does this make us more safe, or does it put us in greater danger?
It allows us for not the first time, but it's allowing us to take control of our own destiny. Prior to constitutional carry, you had to pay for a license, fingerprint it, and then possibly get denied. With constitutional carry, you can now go into the store, pass the background check, and then you can start protecting yourself instantly. And for a lot of folks out there, particularly women that are going through domestic abuse, being attacked by their ex-lovers, et cetera, this is a very good thing because you want to have the ability to protect yourself instantaneously, and the constitutional carry allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm. So how would you suggest that African Americans who do want to take advantage of this opportunity as you've laid out, what is the best way for them to be able to safely navigate society? I mean, we have examples of law-abiding African American gun owners who have been killed by police because they were carrying their guns legally. What needs to happen so that those individuals who do want to take advantage of the Second Amendment in this way are able to do so in the most safe manner possible?
That's a great question. And I'll say this. It's our Second Amendment, too. African Americans, we're not a discounted American. We're not a sub-American. We are full-fledged Americans. We fought for this country even before we were considered citizens. So that Second Amendment is ours just like everyone else's. And we should not back down in any way, shape, or form. If someone is illegally preventing us from having access to a gun, then that person needs to be addressed, be it a rogue police officer or someone in the private sector that's pushing us away from firearms. But it's our right. Our ancestors died for us to have that right of the Second Amendment, and we should not back down in any way, shape, or form based on that history.
I definitely hear you right there. Also, I'm interested in, what do you see as the future of this constitutional carry movement, if you want to call it a movement? Do you think this is something that is really going to gain momentum in other states across the nation? And to what degree, if any, is your organization active in making that happen?
For one, it makes sense. In essence, what we're saying is that if you're a law-abiding citizen, Black, white, Asian, Latino, whatever, and you want to protect yourself, you have the right to go into a local store with an approved and a FFL, Federal Firearm License Dealer, or a gun owner, and purchase a gun, pass a background check. And I want to make sure everyone's clear on that, because you have to pass a background check before you're allowed to buy the gun in a legal purchase. Once you pass the background check, you are then allowed to carry that gun out the store and begin protecting yourself, your family, your loved ones, your wife, your kids, your property instantly. That's the advantage, and that's why so many people across the country understand constitutional carry for what it is. It allows law-abiding citizens to protect themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. I want to also add in that if you are someone who's concerned that it's going to give folks access to guns, you're right. It is going to give us access to guns. And if you are a law-abiding citizen, that's a good thing because you're not trying to rob anybody. You're not trying to hurt anybody. You're trying to protect yourself. And I think those are all good attributes of this particular feature of constitutional carry. It allows normal folks like you and I to go into the store and begin protecting ourselves without any obstacles to exercising our Second Amendment rights.
Absolutely. And, you know, I have to say that I completely agree with your argument that more than just as much, if not more than anyone else, the Second Amendment is ours as well. When you look at the statistics in recent years, though, we have seen that there has been a huge increase, for example, in the purchase of guns by, for example, white supremacists. And we're seeing the increasing violence with white supremacist organizations across this country, record-breaking growth in that area. I'm wondering, do you see this as something that they might also take advantage of? And does that overall sort of make us more in more peril? Or do you see this as something that we need for self-defense in all circumstances?
I think if you look at the history of African Americans in this country, too many times, too often, from Tulsa Massacre to Tops Market, which was the recent massacre of African Americans specifically, we have not been able to protect ourselves. So the constitutional carry and the ability and the awareness that we are now seeing in the African American community, and it is a surge, particularly among African American women, it's a good thing. It's time for us to start protecting ourselves as a people, as a community, and individually. We have to understand that when you can protect yourself, that's the greatest statement that you can tell yourself, your wife, your kids, that you have the ability and you have the right, because your life means something. Your community means something. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. So I want to bring our panel into this discussion. We have with us tonight the incredible Dr. Julianne Malveaux, the Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies, California State University. Also, Teresa Lundy, Principal Founder of TML Communications, and Dr. Jason Nichols, Senior Lecturer of African American Studies Department at the University of Maryland, College Park, one of my old alma maters. By the way, I wanted to start off with Dr. Malveaux. Do you have a question around this particular issue?
Absolutely, I do, Avis. Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone. My brother, I'm very interested in your arguments, but at the same time, I'm also interested in having you address the subjective nature of perception around self-protection. Those men who followed the FedEx driver in Mississippi, he was not bothering them, but they followed him with guns. Our people all too often are under siege. And so there is something subjective. And when you take this to a jury, which is not often made up of us, the outcomes are not favorable for us. What would you say to that, about that, and how we protect ourselves under those circumstances?
And first of all, it's a great question, and I understand your concern, and it's a concern of mine, because I have kids, I have a wife, I have sisters, I have brothers, I have members in my organization that go through that same process that you're talking about. The worst thing that we can do, is to shut down and allow someone to impose their will and say, you know what, you, for whatever reason, you folks over there, you black folks, you don't deserve to have a gun. There's something about your DNA that's something a little bit different from everyone else in society. I said it after Trayvon Martin got shot, and I'll say it again tonight. Make sure that you carry to protect yourself. It's your right. If you have a rogue police officer, and I don't want to paint all police officers in a negative light because they do a hell of a job, 99.9% of them, but that little percentage that's out there doing things that they should not do, such as shooting us on site when you don't have cause to, and things of that nature, we have the right to protect ourselves, and we should never back down from that for anyone. Everyone in the African American community should have a gun, but it's up to me. And I think we should stay on that route and make sure that is the mindset of our people. For too long, we've been a sheep, and we've been up for slaughter, and we have to stop that mindset. We have to stop it right now.
Ms. Lundy, what are your perspectives?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. See, I live in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and these laws are very strict. So right now in Philadelphia, we have a high percentage rating of gun violence, probably the second highest in the country, next to Chicago. And so I'm a little concerned, with the idea and the theory that, everyone deserves a gun without the permitting process. For me, I just need you to explain a little bit more. If people don't have to go to their police department and actually go and register for a gun, how do we know that this gun has been, fully background checked? Just, again, explain that process a little bit more.
Sure, I'll walk you through. It's very, very simplistic, but it's very thorough in the same breath. Let's take myself as an example, or you as an example. You want to buy a gun. You go into a law-abiding, legally established gun store. When you have selected a gun, they're going to run what is called the NICS. That's the National Instant Criminal Background Check System with the FBI. That at that particular time will tell the owner of the store if you have a felony or not, or something on your background that is going to prevent you from getting a gun. When you pass that, you are then allowed, because you're a law-abiding citizen, they've just checked and you don't have any felonies, you don't have any criminal background, you don't have anything violent, and you are now allowed to carry that gun out the store because it is yours. That is the process. And the reason why that is so important, and I said this earlier, but I want to reiterate this to everyone on the panel, that when you are allowed to buy a gun, particularly for black women who are oftentimes subject to domestic violence and being robbed and attacked in public settings, you are now allowed to protect yourself instantly when you walk out that door. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it certainly puts you in a better position to protect yourself. Now, I want to address the second question, or I think the underlining question of all these black folks with guns out here. Everyone else has guns. Why can't we have guns to protect our community? Why can I not have a gun to protect my child, my daughter, my wife, my son? I'm a law-abiding citizen, so what is it in my DNA that is so troubling to some folks out in society for me to have a gun? I have a problem with that, and I think it's a double standard, and I think it's an underlining of racism if you have a problem with us having guns and other folks being allowed to have it.
Before Dr. Nichols steps in, I just have a quick question, just a quick follow-up. I know that your organization historically has provided classes to help people be able to get to register for their guns and get the older, sort of a little bit more laborious way of getting access to guns. And now, with this shift, a person would just need to pass the background check, as I understand. What do we lose by losing that interim step? Like, what happens in terms of filtering folk that you have been preparing people to be responsible gun owners by providing those classes with your organization? Now that you no longer have to do that as an organization, what do we lose as a society with regards to keeping everyone a little bit more safe?
I don't think, and I look at it a little bit differently, and I really respect what you're saying, but I look at it totally different. I think we gain something. I think we gain the ability to protect ourselves quicker. I think those women or men that are purchasing guns, particularly black folks, and let's just be really candid with it, black folks are buying guns in record numbers, particularly African-American women in our organization. There is a huge upswing in millions and millions of black women are coming together. When those women are out there buying those guns and those men are out there buying those guns, that's a gain for our community. That's a gain for that community because they can protect themselves. I don't see anything negative in that. Mm-hmm. I understand your concern, but I think people oftentimes get mixed up between gun rights and gun violence. And those are two separate conversations.
No, I completely get it. I'm just wondering, what is the difference? Like, is there, for example, can you give us a quick example of what you would be training people otherwise, like prior to this happening? What type of training would people get?
Sure. I'll give an example of what we do at the National African American Gun Association, which is, by the way, the largest African American gun group in the history of the U.S. with over 50,000 members. We have over 130 chapters. We are growing in leaps and bounds. What we do at our organization is the following. When someone comes into one of our chapters for basic information, we assess that person first. You just don't run out into the range and start shooting a gun aimlessly. We have certified instructors, black certified instructors, male and female, that put you through the steps that help you become a better shooter. We work on muscle memory. We work on stances. We work on hand management. We work on low ready, high ready, all those things that are basics to fundamentals. Those things still happen. We don't skip over those because you have constitutional carry and you now have a gun. We still go through the same process. And for me, to me, it speeds up the process because you now can become trained quicker. You now can start your process to learn how to protect yourself and your family quicker. And I think those are all good attributes based on the law as it presently is constructed.
Understood. Dr. Nichols.
So firstly, let me say, I 100% believe that in the Second Amendment that black people have that right. I'm a gun owner myself. but I'm also a believer in gun control. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. So I guess my first statement before I pose my question is kind of piggybacks off what Dr. Malveaux was saying, and that is that a lot of women, I think the thing about women having guns, we also need to recognize that a lot of women are sitting in prison. A lot of Black women are sitting in prison, sometimes for shooting their abusers, even when they had the legal right. So I think that's also something that we need to consider, that that's also a fact. Now, my question is, you said that our people have the right to carry guns because other people have guns. I agree 100%, but those other people went through presumably went through the permitting process. What do you think is keeping Black people from going through the permitting process, and why does the permitting process necessarily need to be removed?
That's a great question. I think I have an even better answer for you. The permitting process, very simply, this allows that particular person to be registered in that particular state. Constitutional carry speeds up that process in that particular state for that person. They're not a rogue person having a gun without passing a background check. And I really want to emphasize that. You have to go through the NICS system, which is an FBI database on individuals in this country. If you come up with a felony, you're not going to be allowed to have a gun. So I don't think it's negative at all, based on how I understand your question regarding to the law itself.
May I ask one follow-up, and that is one of the things that we've seen, of course, with a lot of the mass shootings that have happened around the country is that we see young men, 18 and 19, getting firearms legally. And a lot of times when they're getting them legally, it's long guns, because of the process of getting a long gun is the one that you're kind of referring to. That's basically going to happen with the handguns. So does it worry you that these same individuals will be able to get handguns, which can be concealed, and carry them into public spaces and make people more susceptible to violence from young, impulsive people?
It bothers me, and I appreciate your question. I respect your question, but I think this is my response. It bothers me when I look at the history of our folks in this country, and we are constantly just out there pretty much naked. And when I say naked in the symbolic sense, that we don't have a gun, we don't have training, our community, our families, we're just sitting there and letting people go through us and kill us just because. And we never have anything to push back. This allows us a fighting chance. And I want people to understand that. For too long, the mindset of African Americans in this country has been to, well, you don't need a gun because that's a bad thing. We don't need that. That's for those folks over there. And we are constantly being attacked, hung, murdered, massacred. It just goes on and on. I'm out of that mindset. I just really look at it from a totally different perspective. And I respect what you're saying, but I think guns is the answer for a lot of the problems and the ills that we've seen in our communities.
All right. Well, Mr. Smith, I want to thank you for joining us today. I definitely agree that we deserve to be able to protect ourselves, even though this is a very complex and not an easy issue, as are many issues, right? Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.